let's flesh out some of the elements in the toxic work environment. Now, the basis, as we said, is the assumption that people are doers, our job functions, our titles are seen as aspects of themselves, and their totality doesn't really matter. Now, this is a legacy idea, a legacy thought, and a legacy habit that we've inherited. So it's not our fault that we think this way or that we're treated this way within organizations, yet it is our responsibility to change it. As individuals, we grow up in an environment at school which is in and of itself an industrialized process, right? It puts you through school depending on age, regardless of your individual capacity or needs. And so through that, we're taught to focus on external things, grades, what the authority figures are telling us to do, whether the authority figures are happy with us or not, rules, all these kinds of things we are responding to. And we get used to looking externally to see if we're good. If we get A's, we're considered good. If not, we're punished. And the punishment is supposed to give us notice, like make us attentive so that we don't do that again and we do what's rewarded. And so over time, through our education system, if anywhere in the world we're in an education system based on reward and punishment, we are taught to look externally and forget about the internal world. Who cares how we feel? Who cares what our mood is? Who cares what our personality preference is? Who cares about our learning preference? Who cares that we'd rather play and explore on our own? We're put in this chair for a lot of hours a day to focus our attention on what authority figures tell us are important for gratification a long time in the future. And this is why kids resist going to school, even if they love learning. They resist getting up in the morning, doing this, and then this, and then this, and then this. All the structure is resisted because humans want freedom. And kids are more close to freedom than we adults are because we're socialized. During this socialization process, we're taught to focus on logic and ignore or downplay emotions. So this creates like a cut between us. We're like taking our humanity and we're separating the emotions from the logic as if that's possible. And then we do whatever we need to do to play this game, and we either swallow our emotions or ignore them or repress them or suppress them or react badly when we, self-medicate or, exercise for 4 hours a day obsessively or drink alcohol, or we do something to ease the pain of separating our emotions with our logic. So that's part of our socialization. So by the time we're adults, we know very well we have to prove our worth because we're seen as worthless, basically, unless we can prove we can achieve, we can succeed within the context we're in. So this is the basis of this toxic work environment and the legacy industrial model we are in. And legacy meaning the assumption that we humans are not whole, pure, and complete. We're separated. We're only as good as what we can achieve and what we can own and earn and things like that. So this creates in and of itself a lot of insecurity. So we worry, can we handle really bad consequences? Can we handle it if someone criticizes us? Can we handle it if someone's judging us, even if we didn't do that? Or blame us? We question our security, our safety. And so we go to work with this subconscious thinking like, you know what, I'm not sure I can handle really difficult situations. That's the assumption. And we go to work, and then criticism, judgment, and blame is blasted all over the place, directly, indirectly, covertly, overtly. It's everywhere. And I encourage you to start observing it in your self-chatter, observing it in what you watch when you watch movies, what do you think of when someone does this or that, observe it in others at work, at home, in society at large. Then we have the metric at the top, which is money. It makes us so focused on money that we forget other things. So we have these blinders and we're focused on it, and we say, if you're successful, you need money, you need position power, and you need prestige. But it's all put into money. So regardless of whether we're in profit, nonprofit, governmental organizations, we worry about money, whether it's profits or budget. And so we're obsessively worried about that as a success metric. Did we keep everything within budget? Did we maximize profits? Are we looking good? And we start to, instead of grades at school, we start to look at the success metrics as measures of our capacity, of our value as humans. Because during the education process, our identity was merged with what we think, feel, and do. So we think, I am a doctor, I am a coach, I am a feminist, I am a rebel, I am an engineer, I am this, I am that. And we start to mix up or confuse our identities as humans with what we do, and that's because of our socialization process. It's not because we lack something, it's because we are focused over a good decade to look at things this way. And so we're all very sensitized to the success metric in any team, in any organization, because our performance reviews, if we have any, are linked to that. And indirectly, everybody's focusing on it, so there's an attention to it. And so there's a link. And if you make the link with a success metric, it's most likely you'll get promoted and you'll get other benefits, which are other, let's say, verifications of your success. The labels we talked about. Think about the labels you use for yourself. Think about the labels you have for your boss, for your colleagues, for people who may be on your team, people in other organizations, competitors or colleagues, partners, vendors, customers, clients, whoever you deal with. Think about how you think about them. Do you label some people as really smart, really capable, the ones you want to be with, and other people are so difficult and annoying and frustrating you want to avoid them at all cost? Or people in the middle who are like, I couldn't notice if they're here or not. Start noticing how you label yourself and others. And what you're going to start to notice is that when you see labels out in the world, it's likely you have that label for yourself, or you fear having that label. So some people, let's say, are called by their parents and siblings and teachers lazy. Lazy is a rude word for unmotivated. So we can be unmotivated to, let's say, clean the toilets, but it doesn't mean we're lazy. But we have this label, lazy, and then lazy means a lot of things. And then we start to adopt all the things that lazy means in our society, and we put it on as a mask, and we have to wear it, or as an outfit. We have to start wearing it, and it weighs us down. And all the labels we've accumulated from our youth, some is smart, some is clever, some is naughty, some is rebellious, good or bad labels according to our society and the people who gave us those labels, they're both traps. Think of the people who are labeled as smart. They worry about making mistakes. They're like, if I'm considered smart, I should have the answers. If I'm considered smart, I should do this well every time, for the first time. So they have stress too. So both positive and negative labels are hurtful. And so when we use those, we trap ourselves and we trap each other. When we start to let go of labels, that's where we start to have some freedom, but that's for another video, wanting to reinforce that when we use labels for others, they're lazy, they're smart, they're capable, they're late, always late. Whatever we use, we start to see them that way. And we lose the nuances that we each have, and we can't see nuances in each other. And so that we can get discouraged, we can say, well, they're not worth investing in. I'm not going to spend more time trying to collaborate or communicate with them. I'm going to give up. I'm going to spend my time with these people. And then we start selecting who we work with at work, and that affects our sense of inclusion, our sense of being like, are we all here? We've all been hired here. We should all be included. But if we're labeled, we can sense we're out of a certain group or cliques within the workplace. The other element, the hierarchy. I'm not going to say that hierarchy is good or bad. It doesn't have to be vilified. The way we kind of dilute it is with this power over I've talked about. And that means some people are worth more than others. We can see that with salaries. Some people have more prestige and position power. Some people can do whatever they want and they get away with it. They don't have to suffer consequences. We see this in the workplace. And when people have power over each other, firstly, it's a huge responsibility for the people who have that power if they're responsible, if they're ethical, if they are accountable and, really care about people. If they don't, they wouldn't even notice they're responsible. They just move people around as they wish. But it's worse for people who are the people who don't have that power, who have people over them. So as we said, none of us want to feel weak or incapable of taking care of ourselves. We want to be autonomous. We want to be able to have control over our lives, our work, our contributions. And when there's a power over environment where some people are viewed as more important, more valuable, more contributed than others, we feel weak. And we hate feeling weak. We want to survive. That's a survival instinct. And we rebel. And it creates tension. We may not rebel overtly, like say things or do things, but it comes out in this defensiveness, in this proving we're right and we're smarter, we're more knowledgeable, having the last word, criticizing other people's ideas. This is how it comes out. And so with the reward and punishment and the criticism, judgment, and blame, we start to get more worried about what exactly do we need to avoid so that we feel safe. So we spend most of our time avoiding unwanted consequences that will affect our image, our livelihood, our jobs, our, status. So we spend all that energy doing that instead of focusing on the challenges at hand. And that's why in our society we have a lot of smart people. We do not have a lack of IQ. We do not have a lack of education, knowledge, research, findings, data. We have a lack of using it. And we use it because we're using all of our energy to self-protect, because we fear being ridiculed, embarrassed, humiliated, excluded, criticized, judged, and blamed. And so we spend our energy doing that. And so we worry about all these things. We can lose a lot of time. Some people lose weeks and months worrying about what one person said in a team meeting, in a public meeting. They'll lose months of mental wellness. They will worry about it for months, sometimes years. And remember what happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago, because it hurt them so much. And so this is what happens in a toxic work environment. We get really thin-skinned because we're not psychologically safe. And everything that happens could be our downfall. And we know it. And so we protect against it. And we don't pay attention to all of the bigger issues that we could in order to deal with climate change, economic crises, children being raised without food. I mean, all the problems we have in our societies and our workplaces. So that's why smart people end up not really facing a lot of the challenges. And that's why human-centric leading is so important. It's a way to move this drama out of the way so we can cultivate workplaces where we thrive, where we are resilient, where we adapt, and we're not worried for every dagger that's going to come to us because that we don't behave that way at work. So I've given you a little bit more detail in this video about the magnificent compression machine. And just to reinforce that it's called magnificent, it's because it is so good at recreating the results we don't want. So we cannot change this toxic environment by putting makeup on it, by PR spin or public relations spins, or even fake videos that make people look good. We have to do it as a structural level, that we start to create psychological safety by taking out the behavior that creates fear and anxiety and frustration. If you have any questions, send them to me. I'm really interested in discussing this topic and helping more and more leaders understand the core issues. We don't have to react to symptoms. That is an endless game that wastes energy and dilutes impact and exhausts you. And if you're a leader who has to transform or has chosen and agreed to transform a toxic work environment, congratulations to you. You have the guts to do it. And now you have a systematic way to understand what's actually happening so that you can use your energy wisely and systematically with a plan of action that helps you get where you want to go.